If you are living in Charleston County or near Charleston County, you're going to want to watch this because we're going to go over January's market update for the housing, what's going on, and what our predictions are for the rest of the year. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you? Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. I can't wait to talk about the love of the market.
Yes.
Um, so we were just talking off camera. The market is going a little crazy, and I'm getting a lot of whiplash. I feel like in 2023, I was getting whiplash constantly. And what we did notice is that in Charleston County as a whole, we saw a 40% increase of new listings in January. And a lot of times people would say, like, yeah, no duh, because the holidays, people are ready to list their houses in January. But if you look at the past 20 years, that was never the case. That December to January, it wasn't a huge jump. That our big jump that we get every year is in March. March is the spring buying season, is when we get the most showings, the most listings. So what do you think happened, and like what have you been discussing with homeowners about why they're choosing to list in January, and why did we see like such a huge increase?
Well, I think the market last year in general was much slower than other years. And a lot of that obviously due to interest rates and affordability and things like that. But I think people just got tired of waiting to put their home on the market. December, or really October, November, December, things were super, super slow. Nothing really was coming on the market. And now we see this like big eruption of listings. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is just because people don't want to wait anymore. And we have seen a couple little dips in interest rates, but of course now we're back at 7% again. I at some points think that that's contributing, but probably not. I think honestly, it's just people sick of waiting.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you too, because if you look at our last video, I was like, oh, it's because of interest rates, and we were seeing a huge increase in showings because we had 2 days of dips in the interest rates, but then they went right back up.
Right.
So, but we're still seeing new listings hitting the market constantly. And I agree with you. I think people are just so sick and tired of waiting.
Mhm.
Have you seen or like noticed or looked at like who is selling their house? Is it people that purchased in the 2020 era, or is it more so like all over the place?
I'm seeing it kind of all over the place. I still see a lot of my homeowners holding on, or clients, I should say, holding on to their homes with those, 2, 3% interest rates, which I don't blame them. So a lot of those people are choosing still to hold on to their properties or use them as an investment and move on to something else. But I'm really seeing people from all over the place.
Yeah.
I will say this month, specifically with my listings, I have been having more and more people reach out that have been in their home for less than 2 years, which is interesting.
Mhm.
And most of the time, it's just coincidental, like family stuff, or they're moving to Florida. So
Yeah.
either way,
People love Florida.
but it kind of seems to be all over the place, I think.
I lost you for a second. What
Oh,
did you say?
I said it seems to be all over the
Oh,
place.
there you
Yeah, yeah.
go. Yeah. I don't remember who did the research, but they did some type of poll. I want to say it was either NAR, the National Association of Realtors, or it was Realtor.com, that the people that bought in 2020, 2021, 2022 during that big boom, that 60 or 70% of them were very unhappy with their
I
purchase.
remember that. Yep.
So I am curious what's going to happen in the spring buying market. Are people so sick of these houses that they bought? And the reason why I think they're sick of them is because they're under pressure. Like
Yeah.
they had to make a decision ASAP. They needed a house. There was no rentals out there. So I
And
wonder if
those people all have a ton of equity in their homes now too, because
Mhm.
just the way the market grew. So, um, yeah, I think it'd be a great time for them to move on to something new and get out of what they had to buy, back in 2021.
Especially if they bought in 2020 or 2021,
Yeah.
I have seen a huge, it really does depend on which part of Charleston you decided to purchase in. But a lot of them are making a lot of money off of these houses where they're actually building equity faster in their house than they are with their jobs, which
Oh, yeah.
no one has ever heard of that before. So
Yeah.
it is really important that if anyone has questions about their value of their property, to reach out to their real estate agent and just see where they stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as negotiations have been going for you, what's been going on, like showings? How's the negotiating going? Is it more of like a seller market, buyer market? Like, what are we seeing?
So I'm seeing that it's just so specific to the house. is what I'm
Mhm.
seeing. So all of the good ones, I'll say, are going really fast with multiple offers again, which I know like we've seen that together recently.
Yeah.
Um, and when I say good ones, I mean like you're just below the average sales price, the home is in good condition, like those kind of things. But buyers are being a lot more particular and careful, not at all like 2021,
Mhm.
about the homes. Like the showings are much more intentional. That's what I'm trying to say. So when I get a showing request, it's not just like, oh, they just want to see like what's going on in the neighborhood. Like they are serious buyers looking, and they're going to be really particular about the home that they're moving into. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm seeing. Negotiation wise, I mean, we are Charleston County this month was at 95%
Mhm.
percent of original price. So there are plenty of negotiations still happening, but again, it's going to be so specific to the home and the neighborhood is what I'm seeing more than anything.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of there are multiple offers going on, and when they close, they're not getting, $100,000 over their asking price, but they are getting, 1 to 2% over their asking price, and maybe they're not paying for closing costs. But I am seeing a lot of sellers having to cover closing costs for buyers,
Mhm.
even with the multiple offer situations. But when I saw that the 95%, like from original asking price, so sellers are getting basically 95% of what they're asking for. Plus,
Mhm.
they might be covering some closing costs. But with the average sales price being, I think it was 950 in Charleston County, that that 5% is a lot of money. So those
Yeah.
buyers are negotiating like $40,000, $50,000 off the asking price. But
Mhm.
then again, what you were saying too is if you are priced correctly, if you've taken care of your home, buyers are making sure that they are buying something of quality.
Yeah.
If they're going to have a 7% interest rate, they want to make sure
Yeah.
that it's worth it. Because unlike in the COVID market, there are lots of rentals out there now. Like
Mhm.
we no longer have those people, in the 1 month rentals or anything like that. No one's jobs are just letting them come to Charleston just for no reason. So all these rentals that were full back, the last 2 or 3 years are now sitting there vacant, and buyers have a choice to whether rent or buy. Like buying is more expensive than renting right now.
Right.
So I think that they are looking around, making sure that you took care of your property,
Mhm.
and the ones that took care of it and actually was very intentional before they put the house on the market. Those are the ones that are not getting 50 grand off of their asking
And
price.
the ones,
They're
that and
getting
they're
a deal.
priced appropriately from the beginning as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah. I'm still seeing people like hitting like you know new sales records in the neighborhood too. But
Mhm.
speaking of sales, what do you think? What's your prediction for next year, or I guess this year, for appreciation?
So all of the experts, we were just going over this, are expecting like a nationwide growth around 3.5%. We, I think, historically always perform a little bit better here in the Southeast. Our economy is doing really, really well here in Charleston, specifically with our labor force and our consumer spending, all of those kind of things.
We
So
love some money.
yeah, exactly. So I think here we will do a little bit better than 3.5%, but I think it will still be steady and nothing insanely crazy, nothing like a
Mhm.
COVID market or anything like that. But I do think we'll see a steady increase. And that's what pretty much everyone is predicting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now.
I wish that we were a little bit more aggressive with our predictions, but I think that we're just such
It's
realists. We're
gonna
like, this is
be
really,
honestly, we're ready for a boring year. It's fine.
yeah. So I did the research once, I think in 2020, and I wanted to see what the not national, what Charleston's historic appreciation was for the last 20 years.
Hmm.
I I did a lot of math, and it was 5.5%.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit higher than some cities. So like, but what we saw was 5.5%. We were not on the map like we are now.
Hmm.
And I am curious. I think that there's certain areas, obviously, that are going to appreciate a lot slower. And
Yeah.
I think that me and you know which neighborhoods those are, and that we would be able to help guide buyers and let them know, like, hey, if you plan on living here for 5 to 9 years, like, if everything goes the way that we think it's going to go, this is what your appreciation level will be. At
Right.
least in the next year, this is what you will appreciate at. And some people don't care about that, but you never know when life like hits you and something changes and you need to sell your house. So I think that there's a long-winded saying that there's certain areas I think that we'll see a 10% increase, but overall, I think it's going to be around 5%.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. And like I was saying, it's still more than the national average, but we are going to keep on that steady increase. Yeah, that sounds about right to
Yeah,
me
and
too.
I mean, I hope we're wrong, but I think it's, buying a house is so expensive right now, and I am very curious at what point, what month supply we're going to have, because you just looked at the month supply and it was like 1.8.
Somerville, I just saw was at 2.5%. Oh, it was at 2.5 months. So it's
Okay.
the inventory is going up. Yep.
Yeah, that's the highest I think I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah, it is a little bit
Mount
high.
Pleasant
We had
was,
all those new listings come up.
yeah. And then Mount Pleasant was, I think, like a month and a half, 1.8 months worth of
1.8, I
inventory.
think I saw at Mount Pleasant. Yeah.
And I am curious if we're going to see more standing inventory. Somerville does
Yeah.
have a lot of new construction
It
that
would
is
be,
going
it's going to be
to,
interesting. Sorry, you cut
I
out.
think,
Are you
crush
talking?
appreciation a little tiny bit. Or yeah, sorry. I
Sorry.
said I think Somerville has a lot more new construction than Mount Pleasant
Yes.
does. And so I do think that that will affect how the market goes in Somerville versus Mount Pleasant.
Mhm.
But Mount Pleasant is now getting so expensive that if you don't have children, I don't want to get flagged for saying this, but people aren't moving there because why pay these top dollars when you don't have kids doing the top 1% of public schools?
Right. And that's what I'm seeing, especially in Dorchester County in Somerville, that like it doesn't matter. Like we talked about the last talk that we had, the price point isn't as relevant because even the higher priced homes, if you're in a good school district in Dorchester, two schools that a lot of my buyers are trying to get into, they can afford a $700,000 home because that's a hell of a lot less than what they're going to be paying in Mount Pleasant still. You know what I mean? So,
and it's funny because in Mount Pleasant, we're still seeing those houses that are like 650, 750, really hard to sell because that doesn't make sense for their kids. Like they might have 3 children and this is a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom, and these prices don't make sense because then they have to throw, if it's 650,000 or 750, it usually means that you have a ton of work to do and you can't have your children and all this work to do when you're paying top dollar. So that's what I'm seeing a lot is back in the day, like those would just go so fast, and those are the ones that are sitting now because I think that price point, people are like, I'd rather.
Sorry, you cut out again. Our connect.
We're gonna convince everyone to move to Somerville. I'm born and raised in Mount Pleasant, so I'm pro Mount Pleasant, but sometimes it just doesn't quite make sense for some people.
Yeah. Well, also a $700,000 home in Mount Pleasant versus Somerville is going to be very, very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could have your family in a 3,500 square foot home in Somerville in a great neighborhood that is perfect, ready to go at that price point. And Mount Pleasant, like you were saying, it's like going to be like a 3-2, 1,500 square feet. Like it's going to be much different. It's going to, quality of life. So
yeah.
Right
I think that once you get into that 1 to 2 million range, like Mount Pleasant makes more sense for you. So if you have that dual income where you feel comfortable purchasing something like that, that's when you start seeing the houses that are worth it, in my opinion, where it's an established neighborhood. It's a master plan neighborhood like Carolina Park, where that is where people want to be. And they are willing to pay top dollar because they want to be close to the beaches. They want to be close, like, golf cart to all their places, but they also want Mount Pleasant schools. Mm-hmm. So I think that we will always be in the battle of Mount Pleasant versus Somerville. And I think that's what's so fun about us.
Yeah.
Is I've sold so many houses in Mount Pleasant, but now I'm even telling people, I'm like, I think that maybe you should go look at Nexton instead.
Exactly.
And I used to never say that because I didn't want to drive over there, but
I know.
Now
it makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
The affordability is there. And that's like the hardest thing I think that people are going through right now is just the affordability in the housing market and inflation in general. I think people will continue to just be careful and more like thoughtful with their purchase and consider more areas of Charleston as well.
Me too. Yeah. I think Somerville is blowing up, and it really is because you just get so much more bang for your buck. And there's so many restaurants there now that if you don't go to the beach like every single day, then maybe Somerville makes sense because all the downtown restaurants, one, it's still like 25, 35 minutes away from you, but they're also in Somerville. So, you don't have to pay your babysitter an additional hour just for travel time.
Right. I mean, and there are parts, Somerville's also enormous. So there are parts of Somerville where I live, for example, I can get to Sullivan's Island in like 35 minutes. It's not that bad to get to the beach, you know?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can be up in Cane Bay and it will take you much longer. But it's so spread out. And we are seeing more and more clients come this way, which I think is very, very interesting and kind of like a turn of events, in my opinion, because Mount Pleasant is where everyone wanted to be for so long, I feel. So,
Yeah, and I think there's still some people that, I mean, obviously there's still people in there because the
oh,
average
yeah.
days on market is like 11 days. But um, yeah, I mean, it's getting, Mount Pleasant's getting so big, it might take you 35 minutes to get to Sullivan's Island too.
Right, right,
It just
exactly.
depends on where you live. But the water life in Mount Pleasant is really great. And I understand when people want to walk on the back porch and go to, you know, get onto like the Wando and go have a
Mhm.
boat day. What other predictions should we talk about, or any market updates that
I
you
want
think?
to ask you about interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's like one of our least favorite things to talk about because we don't
Yeah.
have a crystal ball. We cannot predict, but
No.
just wanted to touch on that because we get asked that all the time by our clients.
Yeah. I have my own opinions, and then obviously we have the economist opinions as well. My opinion, I know it's election year, but I still like. I think that we're going to be in the sixes for the rest of the year. It might dip down to the high fives, and then we're going to see what happens, and we know what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Home prices are going to go crazy. Buyers are going to go crazy. But the thing is, it's still expensive. Even though low fives is what nationally, like the national average for the last 50 years
Mhm.
was around, I think, 4.75. I don't think that we're going to see the low fives at all. If anything, we're going to get a little teaser of the high fives, and it's going to go back into the sixes. I think the low six, mid six is where we'll see it by Q3, Q4. But in my opinion, if you can afford the house monthly now, then buy the house now. If you're comfortable buying the house with that monthly payment, stop looking at your interest rates because you don't know what's going to happen. And why wait to buy something when you can already afford it and start getting appreciation now?
Yeah.
Stop looking at the interest rates and start looking at your monthly payment.
And we're seeing, like we said earlier, so much negotiating happening. Sellers oftentimes now are paying for rate buy downs for buyers. So if interest rate is a huge, deterrent for you, we just had a seller go through the process of offering a rate buy down for someone, and it cost about $12,000 for their home. So that's a normal amount of seller concessions that I'm seeing right now for a rate buy down, and it's happening often. So I agree with you. If you can afford the house now, get the house now.
Just buy it. It's not like it's a purse. Don't buy the purse if you can afford it, but buy the damn house.
Right. But because like we said, the prices are going to keep going up, and that's something that you can't change your purchase price, right? But you can always refinance. I know it's the most annoying thing to hear us say because we say it all the time. But it's true. I personally think that interest rates will dip into the fives in Q3. Not low fives, but I think we'll hang out in the high fives. I really do, just based on
Yeah.
economist predictions and things like that. So I'm also hopeful because I
Mhm.
want to buy a house this year. So we'll see
Yeah.
what's happening.
But Sarah, if you can afford the monthly payment, just freaking buy the house.
I know it. I'm being
I know.
picky.
Yeah, well, everybody is being picky.
Right,
But you want to
right.
make sure moving is so annoying that you
Yeah,
want to make sure no matter what the interest rates are, even if they're at 3.5%, moving is annoying,
yeah.
even when money is cheap. So make sure that you like the house. And when you're purchasing a house, you should be seeing yourself being there for at least 4 to 6 years for it to
Mhm.
make sense.
Yeah. Yep.
But really a little bit longer than 4 if you can.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree totally. Is there
This has
anything
been fun.
else?
I don't think so. I think that we did pretty good. If anyone has any additional questions, just send it in the comments, or you know how to reach us at Marley at marleypresswood.com, Sarah at marleypresswood.com, or you can reach us on Instagram. But this was fun, and I'll talk to you next month.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.